Alright, so I told you guys we were going to start working on the wagon. It's raining. Because we got the engine and the transmission. And yeah, so it's been sitting here for about 1.5 years, as you guys know. I already told you. And I went ahead and we just kind of knocked the dirt off of this guy. So we have, and aired up the tire. Look at that, that tire is still holding. When I bought this car back in 2016, I believe, the tires were dry rotted. I put probably 30,000, 20,000 miles on it, and just kept airing up the back one whenever it would get low. But we do have plans for new tires, so don't get too upset. Look at that, I got an orange block. Anybody in Houston area, I'm gonna throw it up on Marketplace. It'll probably be gone by the time this video's up, but there's a whole orange block and transmission that worked fine. The only thing that's wrong with this is I swapped out the alternator, got the wrong alternator, and smoked some wiring thing. So
we could probably sell the airbag off of this thing.
And we have airbags, but the airbag is inside. That's not the actual airbag. That was just parts of the airbag.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the airbag is sitting precariously on a shelf that I'm terrified to go near for fear that it will explode and kill everybody in a 4-mile radius. Okay, so we're gonna let this guy kind of dry a little bit. I gotta put injectors in the Phoenix or else it's not moving. And yeah, just moving along. Projects, we got projects. Look at that, Jacob even came out on a Saturday to throw in a hand on the Phoenix. He is so in love with this project. So yeah, I did some transmission math yesterday, the day before. It was a really sweet, what was it called? Oh God. Damn it, I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, I went through the gear ratios on the transmission, and I'm really liking where they all line up at. A little bit steep for highway speed on the 410 gear I got in the car. So it's close. It's like at 65, I think it was like 27, and at like 70, it was like 30, 31, maybe something like that. A little higher than maybe I'd like. So, but we're just going to leave it all in there. I know they make a smaller, a shorter, a taller. 410 is very short. We make a taller gear in these factory transmissions. So if this guy gives us any, it's also a locker, Dana 27 spline locker. So, you know, it is what it is. People have used these and they've lasted. So it'll be interesting. We'll put it all together and see how it does. And if it's annoying, then we'll just swap out for a little bit taller gears and we'll have a good cruising gear. But the first 3 gears are nice. It takes us up to about, I think, 125, which will be crazy in the wagon. I did 120 in that thing one time on 99 with the pedal flat for probably 5-6 minutes. The car did not overheat, but it did take it downhill to get up that momentum. Look at this. Look at this. Look at him. He knows he's not supposed to go back there. Are you supposed to go back there, Bob? Huh?
Bob, don't do it.
Don't do it, Bob.
Don't do it, Bob.
I know, you're thinking hard. Don't do it. Hey! Go. I'm gonna kung fu. Ah! Whoopah! Whoopah! Get out of the rain, Bob, big dummy. Bob's always trying to invade the garden. So yeah, there's some things going through my mind. I've had a hell of a time getting ejector hats for this thing. I didn't know they made so many different size injector hats. So my second attempt, it was a fail, and now I just gotta wait for the ones that are supposed to be with it to show up. And I was hoping to be today, but I'm not sure that's gonna happen. All right, we are working on the Gringo. So, everybody, we've already done work on the Gringo. So I'm gonna take you guys back in time to before the Phoenix broke and we had this guy in here. And I'll show you some of that footage of me stripping out the entire dash assembly and draining fluids and all of that stuff. We did that all in preparation for this build. And then we have a bunch of stuff down here. We have LS6 or LS3. Actually, it's like, what is the truck? L90? I don't even know these designations, but whatever the big 6.2 Cadillac engine is, we got all kinds of stuff off the front of it and manifolds because we were going to take our spilt 6-liter and stuff in here and do some stupid turbo stuff. But I've really changed my mind. Like I told you guys, I like this car and I want to drive it. I just want it to be simple. I want to get into it and drive it everywhere all the time, and that's the goal. And with that being the goal, I figure 300 horsepower from a 5.3 4.8 with a cam and some good breathing abilities, some springs, some heads should work and make me happy, because 300 horsepower is decent, especially when you're going from like what was like 60. I think the stock, these were supposed to be rated at like 120. That did not happen, or at least not in this engine. It never made any power. So 4L80Es, 6 liters, square port, rectangular port stuff, all out the window. We're just dropping in the 5.3 with the 4L60. Has a shorter gear ratio, make it faster, more torque multiplication, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, take you guys back, show you that video of what we were doing, and then we're going to get back into this project. So we have to take out everything. I got to go ahead and pull the engine and transmission. So I just finished draining the transmission fluid. I hadn't got to that, but I think I got to everything else. So we'll just start unhooking things and covering ourselves in oils and grease, hydraulic fluids, and all that good stuff. Gringo. Oh, and then look at this, man. We finally got our top hats in for the 1400 Bosch boys. So we will put those in the Phoenix, and that should be one of the few things we got left on the Phoenix. So we can drive it around and see if we've worked out all of our little mystery computer problems. And if so, then we can get it tuned. That'll be exciting. The Phoenix looks good. I also polished it yesterday. That last driver's side rear quarter, buffed it. The whole car looks kind of the same root beer color. It's not that like light tan in that one quarter panel. It's all the same ugly 50 shades of brown kind of thing, which is muy bien. I'll take you outside and show you. Bob's worthless. Bob, you're worthless. We put this guy here. Let's get this board inside the shop so I'm not turning my floor, but I need to take a measurement from the engine to the tail shaft so I can kind of get an idea of where everything's going to land underneath there. But that's not why I came out here. I came out here. Look at that humidity, boys and girls. That is what Texas, or East Texas, is all about. Everything. Humidity. Yeah. So I think I already showed you guys this, but I just threw it here to kind of get up out of the way so it's not flopping around the back of the truck. There's so many things that this. So they threw this cover on here, and I was like, oh, look, it's got a cover. You hardly ever see these covers, and I couldn't figure out why. Why would you have a cover on there? It's kind of odd. I've never really seen a cover. And then I realized, oh, well, it's because it's got a busted manifold, and they're hiding the fact that there's a gaping hole that they ripped off the top of it. Hooray. But, yeah, just a weird throttle-bodied guy. And then also I've realized the only things on this is going to fit from what I can kind of get from just kind of eyeballing stuff and running a rough tape measure is none of the front accessory drive is going to work, which is funny because I went through all the trouble getting a front truck accessory drive for the 6.2, which is dumb, but I do lots of dumb things. Anyway, the only thing that I could possibly have kept on this car would have been the air conditioner and the starter. And you will see the starter. Oh, are we still fogged up? No, but yeah, you can see the starter there. It's all mashed in where you can see this panel's smashed up against it. And smashed this, so this thing got, which is good in the sense that we know this thing was running when it wrecked, but hopefully nothing's cracked on the block or anything. We'll have to take a nice look at that. But we got the better, these are 706, and we got the 243s with the hefty duty springs, and I think I'm gonna get the same camshaft that I got in this. It's like a 218 228 with like a mild lift. Anyway, I'm sorry about the lens. This is what happens. All right, so here's the Phoenix out in its natural habitat for you guys. Never mind the bob poop everywhere. Yeah, and we buffed this whole back panel. If you guys remember, it was kind of like a lighter tan back here than the rest of the car, but we ran a buffer over it and kind of got most of that. Yeah, this lens is still fogging up. So yeah, not too terribly bad. We finally got our injectors in, so like I said, we can smash those guys in, figure out the last little bit of bugs. We got to try to reclamp. I think we're going to try to reclamp that fitting that's leaking on the air conditioner on the inside, and hopefully that'll clear it up. If not, we'll just have to cut it out and put a new one on there. But those are like the little last details of the Phoenix, and she's looking awfully nice. Super excited to have it pretty much done and be able to drive it whenever the heck I like. I like to drive the Phoenix. Right, Bob? All right, we're under the car again. And I'll just show you some things, some interesting things about the Volvo 940. So its steering rack is underneath the front cross member, which is kind of interesting. And you'll see the suspension is integral to the front cross member. So it makes me not want to chop or carve or do anything to this. So that kind of makes that our floor for the swap. That, which then pushes everything up. I had this fantasy that I'd be able to run the truck manifold and all that stuff, but that's not going to happen. The good thing is there's lots of room over here for air conditioning stuff. We gotta have to make some mounts on either side. We got a pretty good chunk of room in between the frame rails. We're gonna, I believe I'm just gonna take the manifold as it comes down here, kind of just like we did with the Phoenix, loop it up underneath where it'll join with this and then shoot out as a single 3-inch. I'll probably run 2 mufflers to make it so I can tolerate driving the thing. Maximum speed is not a concern of mine. I just want it to be a fun car. This thing's kind of weird because it makes it look like the engine is sitting forward, as the bell housing kind of should be here, but it's actually up here, and then our engine is here. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how the oil pan, we got a Holly Boy up here, 302-3, to fit in here to see how it goes, and then I'll kind of want to, like I said, measure out the transmission so I can figure out what we got going on here. Our engine is at the 3.5 degree rake, I guess is angle is the best way to say it. So that should work well if we can duplicate that 3 degrees and run a one-piece drive shaft to our axle. Once this is on the ground, we're going to lower it as well, but you'll see the axle housing will pivot. It's degrees. It's almost like it's on this fulcrum right here created by the suspension. So this is crazy. It's hanging down at like 6 degrees, 6.8, but when it sits up, then it flattens out, if that makes sense. And we're gonna add at least an inch of drop to this because we need to get some blower, because this thing looks like a 4x4. So I like to drop it like an inch would be my personal preference, but I've only been able to find like relatively aggressive lowering kits, like 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches. One of the couple of the things that we're going to have to concern ourselves with is this plate here. It looks like it is it's probably not structural. It's probably only structural enough to hold the center bearing housing, which is what's going on up here. And that bushing is completely shot. You guys can see me move this. You guys see, sorry it's so dark underneath here, but it just is what it is. But you can see we're moving that guy all over the place. And that bushing's gone. This guy is integral. It is actually part of the frame. And it's going to be close. So we might have to, and of course they put the brake line right underneath this. And then this part here is part of the rear housing pinion angle support guy. So it'll be interesting to get our drive shaft in there and see what we got to do to make this all work out. But I don't want it to where it's touching, but we'll definitely have to kind of shave this guy down. We might have to, maybe we'll shave it down and box it in with some sheet metal, or we'll do something, but we'll keep it reinforced. We're gonna not stray very far from what Volvo had intended. It's interesting. Oh, that's probably, let me smell. Okay, good. So that is just, I sprayed all these bolts down. I hosed all the bolts down. This is the best stuff in the world. It's gonna make you laugh. It is AST penetrant number 2. But if you can find that, the AST stands for anti-seize technology. You see that? Boys and girls, that stuff, it works if you spray it on these bolts, even these old rusty ass hanger bolts, and let them sit overnight or so. But I sprayed every bolt down. So, and I had good luck doing that with the Phoenix, and the Phoenix was probably another 20 years older than this car. So hopefully that all works. My plans with this tank is just to keep the tank here. I'd like to see if I could drop like a 450 or a 350 or a 380 or whatever they make into the tank, and just keep it kind of like it is. I'll replace all these skimpy little fuel lines here with actual AN hose, and put a good AN filter in there. But I'd just like to keep that stocked, because then you don't have to mess with anything. You just pull it down, figure out how to rig the pump into it, and there you go. As far as the axle is concerned, we're just going to leave this alone. I looked it up. It's supposed to be a 27 spline walking Dana axle. I think it's a Dana 44. If you guys know about Volvo axles and that kind of thing, this is exactly what it is. So we got 410 gears, which checks out on everything I've seen. But yeah, the brakes are here, which work pretty good for this car. Everything's laid out the right way it's going to be. Like I showed you before, if you want to widen this up, you either have to do some silly fender flares, or you would have to cut into the actual frame and box it, and then you'd have to move all your suspension around, and then you got to deal with this rear tire thing and the fuel tank, and it gets the muffler. It all kind of gets complicated real quick the more you want to re-engineer this stuff. But I've seen dudes at Drag Week running Volvo axles on turbo LS's, running like 10s or 9s. So it should be fine for the little amount of power we're going to throw at her. And that's about it underneath here. That's kind of like all the engineering when you sit up at night thinking about stuff. That is so, as all of us car guys do, as you sit up at night and you think the stuff through in your head, that's all the stuff I've kind of worked through in my head and addressed. We're going to get some, you can get these, you can get 205, I think it's 205 56 15s. Maybe they even have 60s. I'll have to look that up. That'd be sweet if they had 205 60 15s. But I know they for sure have 50 16s, and that's what we're going to put on here. So these are 195 65 15s, and I love these. I love these aluminum wheels they got. They kind of cleaned up nicely. So we're just going to wrap those with some. I'll see if I can get another pair, because I always like to have street tires and drag radials. If you guys have these, I sure would like to get a hold of 2 of them. So let me know. we can work something out. But yeah, so the idea is to have some probably some like aggressive all-season tires for like driving in like the winter or rainy days and stuff like that, and then also throw on some maybe some Mickey Thompson, maybe not pros, but maybe they're just a regular drag radial, so we have a little bit of traction. I don't know, I haven't quite figured that out, but I know they'll fit on here, and that kind of saves our whole wheel problem, our wheel tire clearance problem. And we can do the same with the front, and we'll replace our 100-year-old Michelin wheels. It'd be interesting to pull the date coats on these and see when they were made. But yeah, 205 50/15s put on there. We'll lower it down like an inch and a half, and buff it out. I might get it painted. I really like this car, so I might buff it out and see what it would do to just shoot the outside like the original green color of the car. So we're not doing like a complete color change, but just a kind of a respray on it, which usually isn't too terribly expensive. Yeah, so that's where we're at. I just want to give you an update on all the engineering kind of things I've trying to work through in my brain as we're putting this together. To me, that's kind of the funnest part of the project is, you know, you get these two components, X and Y, and then you got to meld them together and make it work. And that's where, you know, you get to put all your skills to the test. Can we do it? And it's a fun challenge to work through. I'm pretty sure that's probably why you guys all work on cars as well. So I just want to let you know what was going on in my mind before we start stripping all this stuff out. I'm gonna stop talking and get to work.